Hello, hello. Welcome to part 2 of the INcontroL pre-recorded Day 9 daily series. Whoa, what does all that mean? Well, INcontroL, aka Jeff Robinson, gave me the oh-so-kind permission to do a commentary overlay on his live stream. For any of you who are curious as to why this is getting pre-recorded, first of all, it is 3 in the morning, and I figure it would be rude to impose the daily schedule upon the illustrious EG INcontroL. But also, because I am going to be out of town for 2 weeks in Germany to do the IEM World Championships. If you listen to this before the week of March 1st, you should definitely tune in because the games are going to be amazing. Until then, we're going to be doing a little bit of analysis on INcontroL's play as he plays it out live. Already, we see that it is a Protoss versus Protoss, and we're going to be talking largely about decision-making and less about mechanics for a couple of reasons. One, there's always so much to talk about that I kind of have to pick one thing, and two, there is obviously going to be a couple of frames lost and a little bit of blockiness, so we can always see what buildings are getting made, but we can't even see the mouse cursor given this stream setup. So in Protoss vs. Protoss, as usual, I always like to note that in the early phases of the game, the big thing to watch and note and be aware of is the chrono boost amount on the Nexus. Look at Jeff's. Look at how high it is. Look at how long and thick that purple bar is. Look at that beautiful, pretty purple bar. And we'll go back to the opponent's base. INcontroL is going to pop back to there. We're going to see it in a moment once INcontroL builds a cybernetics core. Good. But yeah, look, the opponent seems to have spent one more chrono boost than we have. You can just see by this bar. It looks like INcontroL is going to be going for a very, very aggressive 4 warp gate. INcontroL is doing a very common technique, which is to have your probe attack that first pylon. Every now and again you kill it. Every now and again you kill it. Generally doesn't happen, but I want to note that in this game, killing off pylons and gateways is way better than killing off probes in the 4 warp gate battle. That is a very important thing to note. So we're going to see INcontroL immediately begin chrono boosting. Yep, there's the double chrono boost. And I would honestly say that the opponent is probably watching INcontroL's base very, very closely and noticing how high that chrono boost was. If I were the opponent, I would be getting very, very leery of a 4 warp gate push. The 4 warp gate is strong because of the following reason, and we discussed this in the last INcontroL little daily that we did. This 4 warp gate is strong because you can warp units onto the ramp, and that will allow you to get vision up to the high ground so that your stalkers can shoot up. So what you typically end up seeing is a player who will get a good amount of stalkers and then begin warping zealots up onto the high ground, and that is why you can get away with all of this on just one geyser. INcontroL is building those gateways. Given how much chrono boost he saved up, he will not have those gateways done. If you begin constantly chrono boosting your warp gate, then that takes about as long as a gateway to build. So if your warp gate was like close to done, if your warp gate was started and then you got a little bit of money, your warp gate's going to be finishing a little bit early. So INcontroL's warp gate should be done any second now. Notice how active INcontroL is with his stalkers. He's clearing out the center of the map. That probe's doing a lot of poking around. There's a lot of lateral movement. That's real good stuff, because he needs to clear out as much space as he can for his pylons. There, he's finally beginning to warp stuff in. Good stuff, good stuff. You notice the gateways are a little teensy bit behind that warp gate. Very typical. We need to be aware of our own chrono boost right now. We need to be aware of our own chrono boost right now. And here comes INcontroL. He's going to begin doing some pushing action. This is the part in the 4 warp gate that most people, I think, mess up. You need to begin spending your chrono boost. There's the pylon going down, so he can warp in at the ramp. That's what we call the money force field. He cannot see up the ramp, and he cannot really warp up the ramp. But on this map, INcontroL's opting for the 4 warp gate because he can always swing in onto the other side and begin working his way up. And there's the endless force field coming up. There's a little bit of a misclick. Looks like, he's going to be doing some surrounding action. INcontroL correctly pulls that back at the last second, doing some real over-the-top micro, like pulling it way back and doing the ring around the rosy. Correct. Absolutely correct play. More Zealots getting warped in. INcontroL is not doing anything too crazy on the backside. TQ State doing a very smart thing, just trying to close this off as much as possible. Again, some ring around the rosy micro. Notice how INcontroL, you'll see this a lot, tapping down there, tapping down there. Whoopsie daisies. Looks like the money force field. Nope, not going to happen. Going to be working his way up, and ladies and gentlemen, you have now seen the 4 warp gate, and it's also glorious success. Got to be very, very careful with that force field placement so that you can block those Zealots from getting warped up. The little one has a lot of styles where he ends up getting a ton of the money force fields down to keep himself alive against the 4 warp gate. Because what TQ State is doing is TQ State is saying, if I can hold off a 4 warp gate, I have this game won. INcontroL is the one who's under the pressure right now. Trying to do a lot of warp-ins on either sides. INcontroL has spent no chrono boost. This is the big mistake players make when they do 4 warp gates, is they're not spending the chrono boost to get that little bit of extra advantage. Because what happens is with a 4 warp gate, you can't exactly support it, but you can get like a couple of waves of units out real fast, and you need that wave to come hard at a point when your opponent doesn't quite have as much as you do. It looks like INcontroL is going to be able to break free because of the 2 attack point dynamic, right? He can hit on the left or at the right, so he managed to get bigger numbers of Zealots against smaller number of Zealots, and ends up with a pretty nice, solid win. Now, how would I describe that game? Oh, it looks like I left my mouse cursor on the screen. I'm going to be moving it away. I would describe that game as a tactical victory. I would describe that game as INcontroL opting straight up for something that is an all-in. It is very hard to transition out of the Ultra 4 Warp Gate style that INcontroL did. As you saw, he saved up Chrono Boost very early. He did not get a second gas. It was on Delta Quadrant, so if the expansion, or excuse me, if the attack failed, the only reasonable expansion is the vulnerable one at his front. Not a lot to follow through, so as a result, INcontroL has to rely largely on tactics. So I'm going to talk about it in the form of the tactics. INcontroL had to do warping in on the backside and on the front side, and that is what made it work. That is what made it work. Again, I love the fact that INcontrol's taking these little mini breaks, like a 1-minute break, just sort of recoup, and to flex, which of course, like anytime INcontroL flexes, like all the dogs in a 3-mile radius start barking because his muscles just have this high-pitched frequency of man that just resonates through all the ears of things that can hear that high of a frequency. Oh, it's just so kick-ass. But that's good. Little mini break. Little tiny mini break. Cool. Another Protoss versus Protoss. Let's see if we can link up some of the concepts we were talking about last game. In particular, the chrono boost counting, the scouting of the front, the tactical pressure that was put on. On Delta Quadrant, 2 entrances. INcontroL did a great job with the sweep. I want you to think about all the tactics that happened on that Delta Quadrant game. Let's begin with the first tactic in order. Let's name them. Tactic number 1, very good selective chrono boost saving and putting a little bit of pressure on with that probe harass. Number 2, moving out with chrono boosted early stalkers to check the center of the map, to sweep, to make sure there are no probes, no units. INcontroL chrono boosting those first stalkers so he has a superior stalker force in the center so he can sweep more effectively. Tactic 3, INcontroL lining up a lot of stalkers in the middle of the map while he builds a pylon so he can warp in the back of his opponent's base. Tactic 4, selectively warping in Zealots on one side and stalkers on the other and just hitting whatever was weaker. The instant one side was weak, INcontroL would warp in on the other side. The one thing I would add on that INcontroL could have done better was to do the chrono boost on his 4 warp gates to be a little bit more aggressive to accelerate the pace of that pressure a touch. Because there were times when INcontroL had the money but did not have the warp done. So now that we're watching this on Lost Temple, I do not like the 4 warp gate as much. You can do the money spot with the force fields and end up defending adequately. There was a very, very, very good defense of this, of White Ra against Naniwa, I want to say. I don't know, it was White Ra against somebody, and it was awesome. White Ra, just with very good force field placement, with some good stalker numbers, defended a 4 warp gate and 4 warp gate ultra rush with a 3 warp gate. So now we're on Lost Temple, no 2 entrances. I'm not a big fan of saving up, but notice INcontroL already putting pressure on with that pylon. What do we see here? Not a lot of chrono boost saved up right now. We see him at about half. Both players hanging out at about half. Always got to be a little bit careful, but I will always state comfortably you can be one chrono boost behind your opponent. Why do you say that, Day 9? Because I want you to be a long-term focused player. Now, what should INcontroL be scouting? He's keeping his probe alive. A lot of you keep your probe alive, but you don't know what you're scouting. I'm scouting the second gas. That's what I'm scouting. I really want to see when that second gas goes down, and I'm scouting that chrono boost. Wow, a second gateway ended up going down. INcontroL looks like he's doing a little bit of mirroring of his opponent. Oh, I see a gateway. All right, cool. I'll build a gateway. There's a very, very, very good way to play, which is to do what your opponent's doing, but focus a little more on making workers, right? Okay, so you use one extra chrono boost than he does, and you're just a little bit behind him, but you know what? You have the defender's advantage, and you are a long-term oriented player. So INcontroL going to be moving out right now. Notice, here's a tactic that INcontrol's doing. He's moving the probe to the ramp to make it look like he's running on home, and then he's going to be swinging around this backside, and he's going to be hiding. This is a tactic. I'm going to ignore that for a very long time. Whoops. Hide, hide. He was trying to hide it so that way he could maybe build something later on, but alack, didn't work out. Getting zapped. So, we do see INcontroL beginning to make a couple of units. At this point in time, I would prefer doing some sentries at this phase because you know what? I want to be able to build some extra gateways, and I want to begin building up some extra gas. In the first INcontroL little VOD that we did, the first INcontroL view, INcontroL lost to Optic Zero because INcontroL was ultra prepping for a 4 warp gate play that never ended up coming, and Optic Zero did in fact go for Blink. So what would I do differently this game? Well, given the distances, I would probably be going for an expand a little sooner. I can get away by being a defender a little bit longer. INcontroL looks like he's doing the same sort of 3-gate robo defense style, but I'm still always a little leery of that chrono boost buildup for INcontroL. I'm always a fan of saving up the chrono boost, you know, for a very specific chrono rush. I don't know if I want to call it that, but I will, damn it, because this is my TV show. Pow! But doing some sort of chrono explosion where it's just like getting it all over the Robo Bay to get 3 immortals out super duper duper fast. But notice INcontroL just sort of saved that chrono boost and then now is kind of depleting it all on just probes. I would have preferred to see some sort of a more reasonable adjustment a little bit earlier. Also, there's no pylon at the ramp. That actually bugs me a ton. Would love to see that. But you know what? On this map, the distances are so huge that the 4 warp gates are a little bit delayed, so you have quite a bit more comfort. So it looks like INcontroL is doing... yeah, you know, I'm kind of feeling this a little bit more. In that last game, or excuse me, in the first game that we saw INcontroL play against Optic Zero, that is in the previous pre-recorded daily. This is part 2. In the first one, we saw INcontroL make a ton of stalkers for this defense. Make a ton of stalkers to defend against some sort of 4 warp gate. Like lots and lots and lots and lots. By the way, yeah, I know there's phoenixes on the screen. I'm ignoring them. We saw INcontroL do that initially. But now, INcontroL waited quite a while. He waited quite a while, and it looked like he was gearing up to expand. He had a lot of structures ready. He had the robo and the gateways ready, and then once he saw that nothing was going on, he started to do a little bit of long-term focus. There might be a better defense against the 4 warp gate. I'm always a fan of trying to find fewer building defenses, like maybe using 2 gateways and a robo to defend, but 3 idle gateways and a robo just kind of sitting doing nothing, and then down the road getting an expansion, you know, when you have enough money. I'm kind of ish on. But either way, we see INcontroL doing a lot of reasonable things. This, I think, is a very genius move by INcontroL. He sees his opponent go Phoenix, so what does he do? He just immediately rushes Dark Templar. I think this is a mistake to make this many stalkers. Generally, what's a great play against Phoenixes is you rush for DTs. Why? Because he has Phoenixes. He has absolutely no way of detecting. What if he builds a Forge and Cannon? Then he has absolutely no way of attacking. So what I love doing is getting, like, you know, 3 to 6 Stalkers. You're probably going to need closer to 6. 3 is kind of like not a lot. But you get 6 Stalkers, and then you expand and get a Forge and Cannons. And then you put pressure on with the DTs. You can power your heart out once you have the DTs up. You can power so hard and get your expansion up so fast. Right now, INcontroL's poking around. He's looking for some sort of vulnerability. There's the DTs coming out right now. Again, INcontroL with the high chrono boost. Man, he's going to be just like absolutely on fire when he begins using those chrono boosts. Like he's going to be very, very hard to pick off. Sorry, I got distracted, but yeah, I love using the DTs for to get map control and to take a fast expansion. You're going to hear me say this a ton. Where's the expansion? Where's the expansion? Where's the expansion? We don't quite see an expansion yet. I do love the cannon. I do love the cannon. I think the cannon is great. By INcontroL, that is. I love INcontroL's cannoning. But notice, uh-oh, wait a minute. My opponent has cannons in his main. Oh, crap, maybe. Oh no. Well, if INcontroL had an expansion, he would be in great shape right now. Always want to have that expansion up. Really, 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 always be thinking of that. Yeah, look at this. INcontroL even warping in some more units, but you know what? He doesn't have an expansion. Oh no. And now Optic Zero is going to end up crumbling. Now, I want you to picture this same thing that INcontroL did. You can do this and have an expansion. There's no reason not to have an expansion. This is a very, very common error that ends up happening because INcontroL is winning, and he has it won. I mean, literally, there is like a 100% chance that INcontroL is going to win this game. However, uh-oh, look at this. Look at that zealot count. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, well, it looks like I'm going to have to pull back. And now INcontrol's like, oh, gosh, I actually haven't won. Oh, man, I actually need to kill this expansion off really soon, because if I don't, then this guy's going to have so many zealots, and he's going to have, like, a whole bunch of phoenixes, and that's going to be really hard. Uh-oh, looks like the DT got picked off. And here's the error that happens. And it's a funny error that happens because INcontrol's good. INcontroL will think of these very clever responses. The DT into stalker pressure, clever. The cannon in the main for defense, clever. The way that INcontroL set up his tech structures beforehand, clever. So with about 8 clever things on the plate, INcontroL wins a ton with the DT stalker mix early on. He wins with that tactic an inordinate percentage of the time. But you still have to be thinking long-term, because INcontroL could have had that expansion up and running like a full 2 to 3 minutes ago. And man, INcontroL would have had 6 warp gates now, probably would have been going on his way to Blink, and could have easily won. But suddenly INcontrol's feeling a little bit scared. He's feeling a little bit like, ooh, yeah, I really do need to make 4 cannons there, because he can come in with a bunch of zealots and phoenixes and pick me. I gotta stop saying pick, because that's something that I picked up from my friend who plays Counter-Strike, and he always says that about the op. He's like, oh yeah, I got a pretty nice pick in banana. For any of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say banana, that's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about it. It's not important. It will not help you be a better gamer. It will not. But now INcontroL is having to play a little bit more defensively minded. Look at his food. 51 food. I think that the opponent is probably pretty reasonably at 51 food. I mean, we saw probably 15 units at the front. That's 30 food. We see 10 phoenixes, or excuse me, about 5 to 6 phoenixes. That's another 10 food. Yeah, you know what? Our opponent probably has about the same food as we do. Kind of an interesting transition, getting these 2 Stargates, but I want to emphasize times a billion that INcontroL could have been doing everything that he was doing anyways, as long as he just... he could have been doing everything he did anyways, and had that expansion up a little bit earlier. So there we see Optic Zero getting the Void Ray out. Pretty cool to have like 1 Void Ray plus a lot of Phoenixes, because your Phoenixes allow you to individually select 1 unit to get killed. I think INcontroL is going to be opting for the Void Ray transition. I think this is, upon a little more reflection, I think this is a very, very smart decision. It kind of prohibits the opponent from doing a lot of things that they normally want to do, like getting a lot of, getting a lot of, what are they called? Colossi. Oh, it looks like we see it's going to be an air battle. That's going to be a little interesting. Yeah, it prevents our opponent from getting a lot of Colossi. Hell, if we have Void Rays or Phoenixes, it's going to be a little bit rough. And now we're starting to see one of the funny things that happens in PvP, which is where players begin doing this giant air battle where it's like, okay, well, I'm going to get 2 Stargates because you had 1. All right, well, I'm going to get 3 because you have 2. All right, I'm going to get like 10 Stargates. And both players just have this army of Phoenixes. And you know what the best way to combat it is? You expand and you make cannons. That's the best way to deal with it, is a Phoenix expanding cannoning play. And of course, if you have some DTs in there as well, that's totally kick-ass. So I love that INcontroL is moving out towards his gold. Was thinking a little bit of the gold in the eyes. Notice that the Chrono Boost is still high. Want to be spending that a little bit more, but now that we have so many Stargates coming out, we have the obvious choice of what to do with that. Would not mind Blink either at this point. Would not mind that Blink play. So there's a couple of things that I want to continue to note that INcontroL's doing that we haven't even talked about that are awesome. Just look down here. Look at the fact that all those Nexuses are still making probes. He inadvertently queued up a bunch, and then he fixed it. Very subtle. If you are a regular player, like your regular old casual gamer, maybe play some 2v2s every now and again, I want you to just kind of hang out with me right here and just look at this little bad boy. Look at all the ways that INcontroL is going to be cycling through all these buildings. Notice that, oops, clicked on his Nexuses there for a moment, doing a little bit of chrono boosting, continuing to try to make probes as often as he can. We even see Optic Zero, oh, look, building some more cannons there. Now, we are at, looks like I'm reading about to hit the 19-minute mark. I want to emphasize the saddest thing ever. INcontroL could have had his natural expansion up so much sooner and had everything he's doing happen so much faster. But what happened? That DT stalker tactic that he used is likely so successful, there's generally no need to even worry about the next steps. But every now and again, when you're playing against a player like Optic Zero, who does have some sort of defense, some sort of plan for how to stay alive, you can be in kind of an awkward spot when the opponent does do some sort of defense. Because this is looking very, very close, very thin. INcontroL's actually in somewhat of an all-in position. And if for some reason INcontroL did end up losing this game, I would 100% just say, oh yeah, do the exact same thing you did and just expand earlier. I would not put any more pressure on the statement at all. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, expand better. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, in this battle, you got to do this better, you got to do that a little bit better. I mean, at this point in time, I don't like INcontroL's army just got killed, all right? And there's INcontroL lost that game. But you know what? I would not put any thought into the, oh my gosh, should I have gone more Phoenixes? Was I getting Void Rays too soon? I wouldn't do any of that sort of stuff. This is a very clear, straightforward situation where I think that INcontroL did a very, very smart response. In fact, a brilliant response, and did not exploit it as badly as he could have. So hopefully we'll end up seeing another game or two from INcontroL. I would say that that's probably marginally frustrating at that point in time because INcontroL was in such a clearly dominating position. But you know what? That happens. That happens. That's totally okay. That loss is good. That loss is good for you. It's a healthy loss. Don't stress yourself over that sort of thing. Let me say something that I said in the last INcontroL special that we did. If you have a loss that, like, let's say you played that game, your DTs were going into his main, and you were like, yeah, I got him, I'm going to beat Optic Zero, I'm going to upload the replay, and you're fantasizing about sending the replay to a pretty girl, and she's going to be, oh, I didn't even know you could play against Optic Zero, he's so good, and you beat him? Oh, swoon. Like, I totally know you guys have those sort of fantasies, because I do. And then, victory snatched from you. Oh, brutally, disappointingly. It hurts so much. Anytime that happens, just take a step away. That's fine. Just take a step away. Just take a step away. Come on back. I mean, I'm seeing this screen from INcontroL. We're seeing the chat scroll up. I can't exactly make it out. It looks like INcontroL just sort of stepped away, and that's great. That's a perfectly reasonable thing for you to do, and afterwards you should come back in a hearty, happy mood, and you should, here's a good bit of advice. Anytime you have a loss that feels really frustrating, like you were positive you were going to win, but then you didn't, I want you to say to yourself, that means I did a whole lot of stuff good, and if I did just 1 or 2 adjustments, I'd be winning like 99% of the time in that spot. So if I'm INcontroL, I'd say something like, oh man, I could have won that game, I could have gotten my Let me try it again. I'd be like, oh, I could have won that game. I had my DTs in his base. I was killing them with the stalkers. I was doing so good. And then I would be like, okay, I'll just expand next time. And then I'll do my DT stuff, and I'll do my Stalker stuff. I'll do just as much punishment and damage as before, but I'll be getting Expo after Expo after Expo up. I'll be feeling good. I'll be feeling great. Everything will be totally awesome and totally saucy. It looks like INcontroL is taking an extended break. I wasn't actually intending upon doing this, but you know what? Guys, I'm going to show you Day 9 in his natural habitat. Let's go to dark camera mode. All right, I'm opening up my camera. You're wondering, oh goodness, where's the camera been all these years? Here it is, connecting, click for help. No thank you, here I come, you guys, unless there's an error. Here I come. Hi, that's right, here, let me actually drag this window up a little bit. There you go, now you're seeing Day 9 a little bit more centered. Yeah, there we go, that's pretty fancy. We're doing a nice little impromptu-ness. This is actually quite late in the middle of the night. It's Friday night, no better time to watch streams. And of course, I'm going to be pinging back over here to Captain INcontroL. Looks like he's surfing the forums. Good. This all good. This is all good. I want you to always say that to yourself. If there's a frustrating enough loss, it means that there's some nugget of strength in there, and I want you to cling on to that only after you're feeling good. Don't force it. Don't be like, oh, I lost the game, let me rewatch the replay, I already got it, let's play again. Never play when you're feeling really, really mad. Even at major tournaments, there's been some really funny instances of people who get really enraged and just say, okay, I need like 10 minutes. And they have to stop like the whole tournament. Nothing happens, and that's okay. Because everybody knows that that guy needs to just chill out, because if he sprints into his next game, he's going to end up losing a tragic and terrible loss. I'm going to keep coming back here. Yeah, look, INcontroL, after his little extended hiatus, is back and ready to do a little bit of pain. Look at that, 996 wins. What a beast. Vast a beast. So good, so gosu. So after you do all that analysis, come back, and more frustrating it is, you should be like, all this stuff was so good, can I insert an expansion in there? Why do I say an expansion? I want you to insert something in there that makes it long-term play. Oh, how I love emphasizing long-term play, because it's so easy to trick yourself into trying to win the game now. It's so easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. You're like, well, let me make a bunch of Zerglings just to defend against a 4 warp gate. Well, I could maybe get some Banelings to maybe put a little pressure back on him. And then you begin saying something like, well, you know, let me get my Banelings before I get my Speed Zergling. Yeah, and you know what? No, screw that expansion. Let me go gas pool and then Baneling nest right away. And all of a sudden, all your games are 6 minutes long and you're losing over half of them. What happened to me? Oh, it's because it's so tempting to get sucked into that, oh, I can win it now. Oh, now. The easiest way to make the game go on longer is to take an expansion. Really easy to do, to take an expansion. Just one single little expo. Let's come back here to INcontroL TV. Yes, INcontroL TV. Some of you are probably noticing that, oh, my room looks particularly dark. What's going on in here? It's because I have my huge floodlights turned off right now. Because if I do that, it becomes 1,000,000 degrees in my room. And I can only handle 1,000,000 degrees for 1 hour at a time. Hence why my dailies are generally 1 hour long. So we're going to be happily hanging out here in the dark in my gamer cave. My glasses seems to be uncleanable, but that's fine. I'll just take them off and continue to clean them. What are some other things we've noted about INcontroL's play that is particularly cool? We're seeing that INcontroL is very good at having a lot of responses set up in a scout the front style way. A lot of people, if they have complete and total vision of their opponent, they can say things like, alright, if I see he's going Banshees, then I will therefore end up getting this Observer out. But you don't have complete vision of your opponent. You only have vision of like the front of his base. That's the only place you can be guaranteed it. Or the front of your own base, or wherever there's movement with units. So you see a lot of players spending a ton of time staring at those spots and doing a lot of looking. Looks like INcontroL is still just sort of hanging out on his channel. Looks like he has not yet found a game. He is desperate to get that 1,000th win. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. Hey, as a game starting, fantastic cool. Oh, yes. Protoss versus Zerg. I'm really excited for this because INcontroL, I think, is pretty stunning at this matchup. I like this a lot. The big reason I like this a lot is this is the matchup that I think INcontroL is best at making the game go on longer. So there is the split. We see a little bit of video lag, but you know what? That's fine. That's fine. You and Masters, Fatalis. Yeah, everyone's in Masters. Are you kidding me? I have one post to Team Liquid. I'm in Masters. Just bought StarCraft 2. Masters, no doubt. And I'm not telling you the name of my account. You know it. So, let's talk about decision-making as it relates to the map. Everything I'm about to say is something you should have decided before you even entered the game. How do I want to play Delta Quadrant? How do I want to play it? Well, I'm going to think long-term minded and defensive minded. I have 3 bases nearby me that are pretty darn easy to take. I see nothing wrong with playing a little bit defensive, taking my back door, taking my front door, and doing some big Colossus pushing. Ooh, I could even do some Colossus Void Ray action, because with access to 3 bases, I have access to punching your faces, right? I have access to a lot of resources that will allow me to get that kind of mineral and gas heavy army. Void Rays and Colossi are expensive. Okay, cool. I also want to say something like, we need to worry about mutas, because, hey, come to the mini-map with me. Look at how easy it is for mutas to swing into our main from behind. Very, very, very easy. Just a couple of things that we want to note. So, hey, I'm worried about some muta harass. 2, I am going to be doing some sort of 2 basing style push, and if you, 3 basing style, big heavy unit later down on the max front style push. We could analyze the center of the map of where I want to attack along, all that sort of extra fanciness, but let's go ahead and return back to what we're looking at, which is INcontroL playing StarCraft 2. Just wanted to note some of those decisions that should be made before the game. So we end up scouting the opponent. The big things I'm looking for are, is a gas down and is a pool down? So we see that both are true. So we already know a good sense of what our opponent is doing. He's going to be having speed Zerglings very fast. Sure, he could end up getting some roaches. Sure, he could end up getting some roaches real fast and do some damage to us that way. INcontroL's hanging out at the natural expansion, which is, again, another effective way to scout the front. We see a little bit of Chrono Boost getting saved up as well. So I'm also going to talk a lot about scouting the front and pinning the opponent on a build, pinning our opponent on things that he could possibly be doing. Good, good, good. Said Sean, cracking his neck satisfactorily. So we see the Zealot is now out, second gas is down, Chrono Boost on those things, and here comes some Zerglings. We're going to see 4 Zerglings. Okay, cool. That's a pretty good indicator that there's not some sort of gigantic amount of roaches coming. We do see that there's a sentry getting Chrono Boosted out right now. We're going to see INcontroL. It looks like he's doing a pretty typical 3 Warp Gate play. Probably going to be taking his front door expo kind of fast and putting pressure on his opponent. Why would this be a good decision? Why would this be a good decision? Well, you know what? Bases are pretty freaking close in this game, so any early attack by Protoss is probably going to be quite strong. Oh, INcontroL! Oh, move out with that one Zealot. Yeah, spanking those Zerglings. Look at how careful INcontroL is. Ooh, I love careful players. But also notice that in the midst of all that, INcontroL was late on this 3rd gateway. That's actually going to botch the timing of this build a touch. Want to be a little bit careful of that. I love holding myself to the bar of absolute perfection. As you'll note, INcontroL's like 3,600, 3,800 masters. He's like really high. But still, benchmark yourself against perfection. It's like my favorite thing to do. You should hear me analyze my own replays. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Oh, how horrific. Oh, my God. All that sort of fun, jazz. INcontroL making a few too many pylons. Now, notice that he's at 37 of 50 food, and he's making yet another pylon. Without that pylon, INcontroL would be en route to making a Nexus about now. Yeah, he could have actually very easily produced a Nexus right then. Just want to note that. Little tiny advantages can help us swing quite a ways far ahead. So here is going to come the triple Warp Gate. Here comes all the units. So good. What builds have we pinned our opponent on? Well, not much. Not a lot of different builds because we have not gotten a good chance to scout his front. We have not gotten a good chance to see if there's any sort of crazy deviation coming up. My, that's a lot of sentries. Why so many sentries? So we can defend our front and also so we can add on some more gateways. A gateway in Forge play? Cool. That seems pretty cool. You're continuing to see INcontroL do some tapping down here. Notice he's doing the tapping. Want to be a little careful because notice we're at 49 of 58 and we're building a pylon. Could be just a pinch early. Got to be a little careful of that. Now, Huck normally would be pushing right now. It looks like INcontroL is waiting a little bit. Seems leery of a counterattack. Seems leery of a lot of things messing with him at this point in the game. And it looks like INcontroL is going to be gearing up for a big push. Now, this is a point in time when I think a lot of budding Protosses will begin to get uncomfortable. This is something I tried to mention at the start of the first INcontroL, first-person VOD recording, where there's long periods where it seems like nothing's going on. Like at this point, it kind of feels like, oh man, INcontroL, why aren't you moving out? Oh gosh, isn't Zerg getting all the opportunities in the world to do all sorts of good stuff? If you're feeling that, write this time down, 8 minutes and 30 seconds. Go watch tons of replays of Zergs who go gas, pool, expand. In other words, watch a lot of games of Demaga, watch a lot of games of Morrow. At 8 minutes and 30 seconds, not a lot going down. If my opponent went hatch pool, I would happily be pushing with a Zealot and 6 sentries. Since my opponent went gas pool, then hatch, I think it's very smart for INcontroL to have waited quite a while to begin moving out. So here he is moving out, and as we see, there's a lot of roaches there. We see some poking going on at the outside edge. Coming right back home again. You're going to see INcontroL favor largely sentries and stalkers, and there's that chrono boost going down on that. Very, very good to get a lot of sentries and stalkers early on. When you're dealing with small numbers of units, you need the sentries to zone things properly. And there goes down the robotics bay and the extra gas geyser. Anytime your money is getting low and your gas is getting high, just build a couple more sentries. Also be aware that INcontroL really has not missed a pylon once this game. Maybe a couple of them were a little bit early, but, you know, no big deal. No big deal. So we're going to see continued chrono boosting. I'm continuing to be aware of something like, INcontroL, are you going to ever knock down your backdoor destructible rocks? The answer might be no. I'm taking a gold base as my third, and that's fine. Make sure you have a plan before the game. I prefer to knock down my backdoor rocks. Sometimes even taking that first. I also prefer to, even if I take my front door first, I really strongly prefer to do those as my 3 bases. So INcontroL really has done almost nothing. He scouted the front a little while ago, and what did he see? He saw a lot of roaches and a spine crawler. By the way, I'm sorry I didn't mention this. He saw a lot of roaches and a spine crawler. I would pin my opponent on a later layer. I would be pretty surprised if the opponent had a really fast layer given that roach count. If I see like a lot of Zerglings and a spine crawler, I'm probably a little more inclined to be like, oh, there's a fast roach. Or excuse me, oh, there's a fast layer. But because we saw so many roaches, I'm kind of like, yeah, I think that he kind of is still on hatch tech for at least the time being. So, what does that mean? It means I fully anticipate that whenever an observer ends up popping out, or if an observer ends up popping out, that we will end up seeing not really that far down the road in terms of the layer tech. So I wouldn't be as worried about Mutalisk, because again, I poked at his front and I saw a lot of roaches. I fully expect to see huge numbers of roaches. That's probably what I'm going to pin him on. If he was making hatch tech roaches beforehand, then he's probably going to be making layer tech roaches with that speed upgrade. Not anything hugely complicated, but you know, it's something to go on. Hey, there's an expansion going on by INcontroL. Notice that next stepedness from INcontroL. By the way, look at that mix. Look at that mix. 2 Hydras and 1 Overseer. In other words, he hasn't had layer for long. If he had layer for long, he'd have a lot of Hydras. So that initial read, I think, was reasonable. That when we did that poke with our 5 Stalkers, our 8 Sentries, and our Zealots that INcontroL did earlier, we saw Spine Crawler and a couple of Roaches. So probably going to be doing some sort of Roach with speed, and then maybe transitioning to some Hydras. So at this point, as long as INcontroL plants his frickin' damn Nexus down, plant it INcontroL, I think it's going to be in good shape. I really like the way INcontroL's playing this out. Feels like he's doing nothing, but I want to point out the sort of pressure that INcontroL's done. First moving out with a very small force of Zealot Sentry. Very small, just barely inching it out of his expansion. And it made the Zerg kind of go, uh-oh, gotta be a little bit prepared for this, but then INcontroL didn't attack. And then INcontroL got 5 Stalkers, poked, saw some Roaches, saw a Spine Crawler, pulled back, didn't attack. Is that bad? Hell no, because then INcontroL got even more units, and then barely moved out and poked, and saw that just a couple Hydras were out and the Roaches were out. INcontroL was moving out right at the time when Mutalisk would be a potential concern, and this, everything INcontroL's doing, seems like a mystery to your average player. It seems absolutely mysterious, because it seems like, man, isn't he vulnerable to Mutalisk? Isn't he vulnerable to this, to that? Anytime you wonder, is he vulnerable to that? I want you to look at whatever time it is. I want you to write it down, and then I want you to watch a whole bunch of games of Maro and Demaga where you can see a Zerg who goes gas, pool, then hatch at expand, and you'll be blown away at INcontroL's timing. You'll be shocked and appalled and go, ooh, I want to grow up and be just like you. So INcontroL doing a very good job of transitioning. Oh, look at all that next stepness, and uh-oh, minimap, gotta watch it. Fatalis getting a little bit taken out. One thing I think INcontroL could do a little better is end up sending some probes up to this top area. Because occasionally you'll end up with a Zerg buddy who will just say, alright, you want to be passive? That's cool. I'll just expand 1,000 times. And the Protoss, who's a little overly passive, can get himself in a touch of trouble. I think that I would be surprised if Zerg had more than 4 bases. I really think that Zerg's probably right around now taking this base right here. And so we see a lot of Corruptors moving in. All those sentries that we've had for so long. Don't forget to do a lot of the Guardian Shield. Don't forget to use a lot of the Force Fields. See, we still have like probably, looks like 12 Force Fields that we can throw down. Probably more. Actually, that's probably a way understatement. We probably have 1 million that we can throw down. There we go. So we're seeing INcontroL continue to transition. He made some Colossi, but notice also that we're starting to see Immortals. Immortals I would actually call a very late game unit. Colossi are more of a mid game unit. Oh, yeah, look, there's some more nice Force Fieldage. Very good stuff. Probably going to see some DTs in that mix because we did see a Dark Shrine get thrown down. INcontroL continuing to macro quite well. Just using a very good arc. Zerg is looking quite in a bit of trouble. Oopsie daisies, accidentally leaving those behind. Want to warp them in, bringing the Stalkers to the front. Would love to see some Chrono Boost getting used at this point in time. Anytime I'm in a battle, my brain over years of Brood War is trained to think, how do I macro right now? So everything associated with macro would be the Chrono Boosting of the Stalkers, the Chrono Boosting of the Colossi. Good stuff, good stuff. Hey, look at that. INcontroL was planting some pylons up there. Is it just me, or is INcontroL transitioning to later parts of the game? You bet your ass he is. That's kick-ass. Let's go ahead and try to get a read on our opponent. He just lost a huge army, so he's likely to be replenishing Roaches. That's my read. He's likely to be replenishing Roaches. I would love to get some sentries out. I would actually prefer a sort of Colossus sentry mix more so than a just, I'm going to build Immortals. We're probably going to be seeing a ton of Roaches. Looks like largely Hydralisks. Also fine, Colossus Stalker is a good mid-game mix. If we did something like say, oh, he's probably going to be making Roaches right now, because, Roaches is the obvious safety unit for Zerg. And if we made a whole bunch of Immortals and he didn't do that, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. You can get yourself in a little bit of trouble, but, we're at 100 food. Nothing too wrong with going ahead and getting some more Colossi and getting some more Stalkers. So cool, there's some DTs going out. I would expect this top right to be getting finished about now. I would expect that top right area to be getting done about now. Just start making statements about what you think your opponent's up to. I would not be surprised if Zerg was taking a 5th. I would be a little surprised if Zerg had taken his back door. I kind of expect Zerg to be taking this gold. Anytime you're doing some sort of unit-based defense early, as our Zerg player is. I mean, Zerg was essentially going Zerglings on hatch tech with speed into Roaches on hatch tech to defend, and when you have that many units early on, you're going to be taking your gold early right there because you just have units to kill it off. I mean, if you're going to kill a rock, don't kill the backdoor rock, kill the gold rock, The only reason you wouldn't do that is if you're having a really, really hard time advancing out. So now Zerg's starting to poop his pants because he sees, oh my goodness, the expansion has been taken. Alack, 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 alack. More guys popping out. Good. There goes down the Overlords. Cool. Notice INcontroL hasn't really done that much. He really hasn't seemed to have done that much. But keep in mind, he did those 3 pokes early on, and he killed a ton of Zerg units multiple times in this game. So he's just waiting to get a good mix, a good late-game mix. We see DTs in there. DTs are great late-game. They're a very, very powerful late-game unit. DT Stalker Immortal is a very good late-game composition, says Sean, continuing to drop his pencil. Here comes the push. We're seeing a lot of roaches there. Great. We were talking about, yep, we think Zerg's going to be replenishing roaches. A little bit surprised that we're not seeing Broodlords, but I'd be very, very shocked if there were any sort of Broodlord tech coming up, and that's fine because we have 9 Warp Gates worth of Stalkers coming up. All of our DTs at the front doing so much damage. And weirdly enough, INcontroL seems to have won that game with almost no scouting, with almost no moving out and looking around the map, because you know what? INcontroL is doing tons of pressure upon killing off that army. Not a big threat. Upon killing off the army again. Yep, still not really a big need to really attack the opponent. And then just waiting till he had the correct mix of units that he so desired, and now he's moving out to attack. Really good stuff. Yep, so there's the gold down. And INcontroL is going to be moving more north. Why did INcontroL not go straight for the gold? Because you do what we call a cut-in. He cuts to the expansion, to the natural expansion, because it creates a block between the main and the gold. In other words, he gets in between the main and the gold, and then he goes for the gold. He gets in between those 2 locations. Whenever you want to go to location B or A, what you should do is you go between B and A and then pick the weaker one. Don't just be like, I think B's better, I'll go straight there. It's much easier for your opponent to defend. However, if you cut in between them, doing what I call a cut-in, because I am clever, then, yep. And that's great. Yep, so there's that 5th base. Right before we attacked, we were thinking he was about getting ready to finish up that 5th. And as INcontrol's there, we see that there are no drones mining minerals. So good. Our read was correct. That's one thing that I want to continue to emphasize, is that you can get so much information about what your opponent's doing based upon what you're seeing at the front. And in particular, based upon what sort of stuff you killed off. Yeah, yeah. Generally, people do a lot of checking into the opponent's main, and it's kind of like comfort food. They're just like, oh, thank God, okay, he does in fact have a hatch making larva. I mean, like, oh, yep, no backdoors getting taken. I would again be blown away if Zerg had his backdoor getting taken. Absolutely blown away. Oh, man. Oh, this game is so over. I'm yawning. How arrogant of me. Ooh. Dark Templar are fairly good against drones in small numbers. The DT is continuing to do ripping things to shreds. I would be so unbelievably surprised if Zerg had his backdoor. Things starting to get morphed in. Come on, be right one time, day 9. Be right one time. Is there anything back there? Is there anything back there? Yeah, he has a hatch. Is it just started? Wait, go back there. Go to the bottom. Please tell me it was just started. Okay, he's moving around. He's moving to the back. Go to the back door main. Tell me the back door expansion was just started. Yeah! Alright! Yes! Yeah! Alright. Feeling confident. Feeling sassy. Fatalis leaves the game with like 3 buildings left. Cool! So I think that is an amazing example game. I really hope INcontroL ends up rewatching that game, because that is profoundly kick-ass. Unbelievably kick-ass. Looked so passive, but the few interactions that happened at the front of the base really dictated the course of that play. I'm actually just going to re-sum up that game. What happened? What happened? Since when did I want to be a little bit tank topish today? Yeah, you know what? Fine. It's fine. I got hairy arms. It's fine. I'm not ashamed. Alright, let's do this, you guys. Okay, I seriously cannot take myself seriously at all. I gotta... Whoo! That was close. Okay, so let's talk about that game. The instant that I see my opponent go gas pool, there's like 2 things that he can do. If he goes hatchet his expansion and then goes for a pool, oh man, is he going to be going defensive with a lot of spine crawlers and teching? Is he going to be doing some sort of roach opening? Maybe he can go to like roach burrow. He could do a bunch of speedlings and take another expansion. Wow, I could just like keep listing all possibilities. There's just so many of them. But if he does something like goes gas pool, he's going to get the speed for the Zerglings and then maybe expand. He could do like a Baneling all in. He could do like a roach all in. That's about it, right? He's going to be taking his expansion. He's going to have speed. Okay, well, if I'm going to be going for a 3-gate opening, he's probably going to have to get roaches or a lot of spine crawlers. Okay, okay, good. So he's going to be doing that. He hasn't even gotten his layer yet. So I'm actually going to wait a little bit. I'm going to build the units, which makes Zerg go, oh, now I have to build some stuff, which he does. And then I'm going to wait a little bit longer, and then I'm going to move out. Because sometimes, you know, your speed Zergling player will go, haha, I'm going to make 50 speed Zerglings. So when he moves out with his Zealot, Sentry mix, I'm going to have 50 Zerglings waiting for him. You know what stinks? When you make 50 Zerglings and he doesn't attack. Exactly what INcontroL did. Very powerful. So you're going to be doing that. And then what did INcontroL do? He kind of hung out, and then he did a little poke. He did a poke, and he saw roaches, and he saw a spine crawler. Aha! We know that he's having a little bit of a late layer. Back up, back up, back up. All right, cool. We're building more stuff. We're getting ready to take an expansion. All right, now let's move forward with our observer. Now we're getting our big force out. Oh, we see 2 hydras and a lot of roaches. Cool. Our read earlier was that, well, if he's on hatch roaches to defend, he's going to have to use the speed upgraded layer roaches to defend my bigger push. So because I saw roaches early, I can kind of continue to expect roaches. So I'm going to be kind of expanding and relying on these narrow areas to let me manage these roaches easily. It's pretty straightforward. And then, okay, we're defending, and holy cow, it's Zerg's huge attack. I mean, Protoss may have thought about attacking back then, but whoa, look, Zerg brought the attack to me. I defended it. Hey, I'm in great shape. Cool, I'm in amazing shape. Wow, he can't even afford to expand anytime soon because he's got to replenish those units. Oh, feeling good, so I'm going to chill and try to get a big army. He's attacking me again with all Hydralisks and Corruptors. Oh, I'm going to kill that. And the only thing Zerg can really do now is make roaches. Cool, I'm going to chill, and I'm going to go straight for my late game mix. I'm going to begin going for my DTs and my Immortals. Now that I have a really big-ass army and I've continued to expand, I'm going to go out and attack. That whole story makes a lot of sense, but we just did not see that much scouting by INcontroL, but INcontroL still had so much information, tons of information. For any of you who don't believe me, rewatch this game on one monitor, and on the other monitor, open up like Morrow, who really almost exclusively uses gas pool openings. Very cool to see how, wow, at this point in this game, I was like, INcontroL, what if you lose to that? But then in this replay, I see Morrow could not even possibly have had enough money to do that. And then you'll be like, I'm the man. So that's going to wrap up this pre-recorded impromptu overnight daily. While I'm out of town, I hope you enjoyed this little first-person view. I certainly did. INcontroL, fighting. I'm signing out. Bye, guys. Bye. Open up. Overlay. Damn you.